Hello, my name is Ikenna Omezudike, and I welcome you to today's episode of our Modesty's Mortgage Masterclass. I am the Director of Modesty Financial Consultants Limited based in Luton, in the United Kingdom, and we specialize in mortgages, financial consulting, anything property finance, and investments management as well. Okay, so today we're going to be continuing our series on help to buy versus conventional mortgages. Last week we started with discussing help to buy ISAs, a help to buy equity loan scheme, and lifetime ISAs. And because of that, we said that we're going to continue discussing breaking down these schemes to you and bringing you up-to-date information on those schemes and how you can take advantage of them and how they compare to your conventional mortgage strategies when you want to buy a property. So in continuation of that, last week we talked about the help to buy equity loan scheme, and this week there has been a very recent development in the help to buy equity loan scheme. So the government, initially that scheme was meant to end in 2021. But from the latest government policy that came out this week, it looks like that scheme will be extended to 2023. So the Help to Buy Equity Loan Scheme is the government-funded scheme aimed at helping first-time buyers getting onto the property ladder by supporting them with 20% deposits while they come up with 5% deposits and then make the rest up with mortgages. So now the government has brought in a few reforms that will kick in from April 2021. I remember last week I said to you that that scheme could possibly be either be pulled out by the government if the money allocated for that scheme runs out or gets exhausted, that they could pull it back before 2021. But the latest announcement by the government looks like they are going to extend it to 2023. So from April 2021 to March 2023, the government has brought in some reforms to the Help to Buy scheme. Now there are a few reforms that have come in place, but the one that very much concerns you, our audience, is the introduction of the caps, the regional caps. Now you remember that initially this Help to Buy equity loan scheme, the maximum property price, the maximum property value that qualifies any property for this Help to Buy scheme is £600,000, whether it's in London or outside of London. So what the government have done now is that they have created regional caps according to house prices in different regions in the UK. So, and what they have done is that they have taken average prices paid by first-time buyers in each of these regions and added 50% to it and use that as a property price cap. You know, that 50% is meant to make sure that this scheme remains available to all first-time buyers within the 2-year window that they have extended it by. So now the regional caps are as follows. In the Northeast, the property price cap in the Northeast stands at £186,100. Northwest is 224,000. Yorkshire and Humberside is 228,100. East Midlands is 261,900. West Midlands 255,600. East of England is 407,400. Southeast is 437,600. Southwest is 349,000 pounds, and London remains 600,000 pounds. So these are the caps. That means properties that are worth more than this cap in any of those regions do not qualify for this government scheme. So please take note of that, but that doesn't kick in until April 2021. So that's the latest on the Help to Buy schemes and the reforms that are coming in April 2021. So today on the Help to Buy scheme that we're going to talk about today, I want to talk about the Help to Buy shared ownership scheme. So shared ownership is one of the Help to Buy schemes that was introduced by the government to help first-time buyers get onto the property ladder. But this scheme does not only apply to first-time buyers. It, as an existing property owner who is already occupying a shared ownership property, you can also take advantage. Or if you used to own a property, but now you used to own a property, but you can no longer afford to buy one, and you're struggling to come up with the required deposit to buy one, you can use this scheme to get on the property ladder again. So in this particular scheme, whether you've owned a property before or not, you can take advantage of it. So what is the shared ownership scheme all about? Basically, it's a scheme that enables you to buy a share of a property and then pay the rest of the in rent. So between 25% and 75% share of the property you can buy through mortgages or through a mortgage, and then the remaining parts of the value of that property is broken down into affordable rents. You make it up by rental payments, alongside the mortgage that you have arranged for it. So usually this comes through housing associations. So that's what the scheme allows you to do. It allows you to buy between 25 to 75% share of the property value and then pay the rest, via rent on a monthly basis. It basically makes it affordable for you. And then as time goes on, the better off you become financially, you can actually buy up the remaining shares of that property. So the minimum share you can buy is 25%, and then you can buy up to 75% of it. So with time, you can now decide to, it's called a stepping. So you can now decide to staircasing. You can now decide to buy up the rest of the share of the property. And it now gives you time to basically do that when you can afford to. You're not under pressure to do that. So to be eligible for this, your household earnings needs to be not more than £80,000 if you're living outside of London, and £90,000 if you're living inside London. And then whether you're a first-time buyer or you used to own a home but you can no longer afford one, or you're already living in a property that's a shared ownership and you want to move to another one, you can take advantage of this scheme. So this scheme is available for newly built houses or even existing ones through the resale programs from the housing associations. So if the housing associations want to resell an already existing property that's in the shared ownership scheme, you can take advantage of that. So it's not just newly built properties. Existing ones also qualify for this scheme. And then you need to take out a mortgage and then pay for that mortgage. So that the share of the property that you're going to buy has to be bought through mortgages. So you need to take out a mortgage to buy that share of the property, and then the rest you make up in rent. And then shared ownership properties are always leasehold. Shared ownership properties are always leasehold. They are never freeholds. They are not freeholds, at least at this moment in time. Okay, so the government-funded shared ownership scheme will only, the only people that are given priority in the government-funded shared ownership scheme are the military personnel. Yeah, those who work in the military, they get preference from the government. But then the local councils are also allowed to prioritize certain groups above others depending on the housing needs in the local councils. There is also a shared ownership scheme that is available for those with disabilities. You can take advantage of this through a scheme called HOLD. It's home ownership for people with long-term disabilities. So if you have a disability of any kind that makes the other homes not suitable for you, for example, you're on a wheelchair and you want to buy a property that's on a ground floor, you can take advantage of the shared ownership scheme through the HOLD scheme, which is a home ownership for people with long-term disabilities. They will help you secure that sort of property through a shared ownership scheme, maybe on a ground floor, depending on the kind of disability that you have. So that's just an example. And then there's also a shared ownership scheme for older people. So if you're age 55 or above, you can take advantage of the scheme that is available for older people. Now, the uniqueness of the shared ownership scheme for older people is that they can buy up to 75% share of any property, and that is where it stops. Yeah, they cannot go beyond 75%, and once they buy up to 75% share, they stop paying rent on the balance. So the moment they buy up to 75% share of the property through their mortgage, they will not be required to pay rent on the balance. So that's the difference between the scheme available for the older people and the normal scheme that others take advantage of. Okay, so why Help to Buy scheme? Why would you want to take advantage of Help to Buy scheme? Why would you want to use Help to Buy scheme to acquire property? First of all, if budget is tight and cash is limited, you might want to consider Help to Buy scheme. So if you're struggling to save up deposits for conventional mortgages, and it's taking you a long time to do that, you might want to consider buying that property through a Help to Buy scheme. And we have mentioned and we have highlighted some of the Help to Buy schemes that are available. There's a Help to Buy ISA, which is already closed, but if you've already opened an ISA account, a Help to Buy ISA account before 30th of November 2019, you're still eligible to pay into it, and then the last drawdown on that will be by December 2030. Okay, there is the lifetime ISA for you to take advantage of if you missed the boat on the Help to Buy ISA scheme. There is a lifetime ISA, and there is the Help to Buy equity loan scheme, where the government comes up with 20% of the deposit, and then there is shared ownership. So these are schemes that are meant to help people who are struggling, to save up for deposits to go through the conventional mortgage route. But this particular scheme, so if cash is tight and budget is tight, you might want to consider the Help to Buy scheme. There are certain rights that you basically lose if you go to the Help to Buy scheme, and if you don't mind, there are certain inconveniences, if you want to see it that way, that you might encounter when you go to the Help to Buy scheme. But if you don't mind any of that, by all means take advantage of the Help to Buy scheme. Okay, so age related, if age is not on your side, and you want to get onto the property ladder quickly, you might want to consider the Help to Buy scheme. So for example, if you're getting too old, and because the older you get, the older you get, the more difficult it becomes for you to get a mortgage on a long-term basis. So the time of the mortgage becomes shorter the older you get. Say for example, if you're 55 and you are still trying to buy a property at the age of 55, you might find it difficult getting a mortgage for 25 years, or for more than 30 years. Although there are lenders these days that lend even up to the age of 85, it's just that the options you have become more limited the older you get. And if at the time you are still struggling to come up with deposit, because remember, you still have to come up with the deposit, so if you are still struggling at that time to come up with a deposit, and age is not on your side, and you want to take advantage, you want to get onto the property ladder quickly, you might want to consider the Help to Buy scheme. Or even if you are at a very young age and you feel you've got enough time ahead of you to save up and then to take advantage of the Help to Buy scheme. I mean, you can if you've opened the Help to Buy ISA scheme, you can save into that scheme for up to 10 years. So you still got a lot of time ahead of you, and then you can take advantage of it between now and the next 10 years and buy your property. Or you can take advantage of the lifetime ISA, and at a young age, because it's meant to encourage the young ones to start saving early towards purchase of their properties and towards their retirement as well. So age could be a factor in deciding whether to take advantage of the Help to Buy scheme or not. And then there are people who are not so lucky, with family. Say they haven't got a family that will support them with deposits to go through the conventional mortgage schemes, because gifted deposits are very common these days in the mortgage market. We've all heard of the bank of mom and dad, the BOMAD. Mom and dad comes up with deposits with a huge sum of money supporting you towards putting down some deposits to buy your first property. Not everybody is that lucky. Not everybody is that privileged. Not everybody is in that position. So if you find yourself in a position where you haven't got this support from family, you haven't got this kind of help from family, and you have to come up with deposits on your own and by yourself and do it all by yourself, and if you haven't got such a high paying job that will enable you to save as much as you want to put away for deposits to buy a property, you might want to consider the help to buy scheme put forward by the government and see if that fits into your strategy and into what you want to achieve. If you require more time to save for deposits, you might also want to consider the government's help to buy, the government's help to buy schemes. And then if you do not mind starting with a small equity in your property, the help to buy scheme might be a good one for you, because the help to buy ISA enables you to save up, and then whatever you save, the government tops it up with 25%. And the lifetime ISA enables you to save up to £4,000 in a year, topped up by 25% from government as well. Some of these schemes, you might end up having just a small equity, or the help to buy equity loan scheme, where you come up with 5% deposit and then the government comes up with 20% deposit. So you own 5% equity in the property. So if you don't mind, just owning a little bit of equity in the property, you might want to consider any of these government schemes. But the shared ownership scheme actually enables you to take out a mortgage up to 75% value of the property. There are lenders who will lend you 100% of that share that you want to buy. Say if the property is worth £100,000, so and you want to borrow £75,000 to buy 75% of that property, there are lenders out there who are happy to lend you the whole £75,000, which is 100% of the mortgage value you're looking for, because they know that there is 25% equity in that property left, even though you are paying rent towards that. There are lenders who will do that. There are also lenders who will say, no, we're not going to lend you 100% of the value you want to borrow. We're going to lend you, 75% or 95% of that value, depending on the lender criteria. So when you come to us, we will assess your situation and what you want to do and what you want to achieve, and we'll find you a lender out there who's happy to do exactly that for you, if there is any. Okay, now conventional mortgages. How do conventional mortgages work? Conventional mortgages, they are pretty straightforward. You deposit at least 5% or more when you want to buy the property. There are 95% mortgages out there for first-time buyers, which we have helped a few first-time buyers to arrange such mortgages. So you do not need, if you don't want to get the government involved, to bring in their 20%, you just want to straight away put down 5% deposit and just go and get a 95% mortgage. That is absolutely possible. You do not have to get the government involved if you do not want to. But if you want to get the government involved, it's up to you, and the government can come up with 20%, which makes the amount, the loan amount for the mortgage, will be reduced. So if you can afford, if your salary or your earnings or your income can carry the 95% mortgage, you might as well want to take advantage. You might as well just want to take a 95% mortgage, 5% deposits. Everything depends on your affordability, what your income can carry. So the reason some people opt for the help to buy equity loan scheme is because it now reduces the loan amount required for mortgage. That means that they only have to borrow 75% from the financial institution or any mortgage provider instead of borrowing 95% because their income cannot carry the 95% mortgage. So when you put down the 5% deposits, you go and first of all, you just find out how much you can borrow actually. Yeah, the first step is for you to go and find out how much you can borrow. You can do that by contacting a mortgage broker. You know, we offer a free mortgage consultation. You know, we can help find out how much you can borrow. You know, take some details, some information of you, and then we'll tell you straight away how much you can borrow. So if we give you an indication of how much you can borrow, then you can now go and start searching for property that fits your budget, and then you can check your savings and see if you have saved enough to put down as deposit and what your income can carry. So put down that deposit when you find out how much you can borrow and you've got enough deposits and you've got enough money to take care of other costs that are associated with property purchase. You put down that 5% deposit because you now know how much you can borrow, and you now know that you do not need the government's help in purchasing this property, because that's the whole essence of assessing affordability, to know exactly where you stand and whether you need this help or not. Now we carry out these affordability checks and we tell you exactly what you can afford based on your income and based on your general circumstances. And then you establish a budget, and because you now know how much you can borrow, you know how much deposit you have, you can now establish a budget and know the sort of price range of properties that you'll be looking for. And then you when you're ready, get a financial advice from a mortgage broker, or you can go into the bank and get one of their products if that's what you want. So what the banks will not give you is financial advice. You can only get a financial advice from brokers like ourselves, because we search the whole market and then we see what's out there and what fits into your objectives, your circumstances, and your situation, and we recommend the best mortgage and the best strategy we think suits your circumstance. It is that recommendation that is unbiased, that is impartial, that stands us out, brokers, from your traditional high street banks or any bank or any lender, because any bank or any lender can only recommend products from their own product range. But what they cannot give is advice. They cannot tell you whether this is the best product that suits your circumstance. But when you tell them your circumstances, they will say this is the best product from our product range that suits your circumstance. But that might not be the best product in the market that suits your circumstance. It's only when you prompt them to ask, is this the best mortgage for me in the market? That's when they will tell you, no, that actually is not the best product for you in the market. You cannot tell you that. You only have to go and seek independent financial advice to get that information, and that is what we do, because we do not work for the banks, we work for the clients, and we work for you. Okay, so when you get the financial advice or you get the mortgage arranged, you can now complete your house purchase using your deposits and the mortgage that you've been able to secure, or we've been able to secure for you. Okay, so what's the difference between help to buy schemes and the conventional mortgage strategy? These are all strategies. So it is only when you know your situation that you can be clear on the strategy you want to adopt to buy your property. So the help to buy scheme is a strategy. The conventional mortgage without the help to buy is a strategy. And the help to buy schemes involve mortgages. So conventional mortgages are involved somehow in the help to buy schemes, but without the help to buy scheme, it simply means that the government is not involved in your decision to buy the property and the property that you're buying and the strategy you are adopting. You are doing it all by yourself and on your own. So the difference here, well, taking into consideration the different help to buy schemes that we have talked about. First of all, the help to buy schemes involves help from the government. But the conventional normal mortgage you do on your own does not involve any help from the government. It's all by yourself, all done for yourself, and the decision is yours, and there is no intervention from the government. Again, the help to buy, for example, the help to buy equity loan scheme requires a second charge on your property. as against the conventional mortgage or the conventional way of buying property without the Help to Buy scheme. So what does this mean? It means that if you use the Help to Buy equity loan scheme, the government will take a second charge on your property. Second charge simply means that the government has got a stake in the property, and that charge means you cannot sell that property without telling the government. In this case, Homes England, they are the people that are administering the Help to Buy equity loan scheme on behalf of the government. So Homes England must be notified before you sell the property. Even if you want to carry out an extension, they must be notified. If you want to take out extra loan on the property, they must be. So the things and the decisions you can make on that property are restricted because you are not the only one who has a stake in that property. Homes England, because they put down 20% deposits, they are major stakeholders in that property. So that is what second charges are. So second charges also can be taken by, if you take out a second charge on your property, what you are telling another, an external body is to say, take stake on my property, become a stakeholder in my property, almost like a part owner of the property. Whatever is going to happen to that property will have to happen with their own consent. So that's what second charges do. So there's a second charge on that property by the government if you take out the Help to Buy loan equity scheme. But if you buy without the Help to Buy equity scheme, there is no second charge on the property. You own the property. Whatever you want to do with the property, if you want to extend the property, as long as it is within the legal limit that you don't require planning, but find out if you require, whatever you want to do with the property, or however you want to, whatever decision you want to take on the property, you take that decision on your own without having to inform anybody or taking anybody's permission to do that. The other difference is that if you buy your property without the assistance of the government, you can let out that property and buy another one. So basically it is called a let to buy. Yeah. So assuming you want to move somewhere else and you want to rent out your existing property, which is your residential property, you can take out a let to buy mortgage. So you convert your residential mortgage to a buy to let mortgage, remortgage that property, and then if you want to take out equity from it, take out equity from it and use it towards deposit for the purchase of the other property. Or if you don't want to take out any equity from it, just change the residential mortgage into a let to buy mortgage. Some lenders will require you to obtain consent to let. There's something called consent to let. It means that the lender is now giving you consent to rent out that property, and then you can buy the other property you want to buy. Okay, so that can be done if you own the property without the intervention of the government. But if you own the property with government assistance in the form of Help to Buy loan equity loan scheme, you cannot rent out that property and then go and buy another one. No. You have to outrightly sell that property if you want to buy another property, because the government policy is that the property that they will help you own must be the only property that you will own. Okay, so you cannot do that if the government has, if you make use of the government intervention with the Help to Buy equity loan scheme. But if it's a property you bought through the government's Help to Buy ISA, where the government topped up your savings by 25%, that's your property. You do not need the government consent to rent out the property, because the government did not take a second charge on that. So that's the difference. Or if it's a shared ownership scheme, the decisions are different. So these are different schemes. So you've got to find out what applies in each scheme and what restrictions each scheme carry. But this one applies to the Help to Buy equity loan scheme. Okay, so the help to Buy equity loan scheme requires permission from Home England before you sell your house. If you want to sell your house and you had help from the government through the Help to Buy equity loan scheme, they have to be informed before you sell the house, because the value of the property, they will have to agree on the value of it, because they have stake in it. You cannot just sell the property, say, below market price because you want to sell quickly. No, if you want to sell the property, you have to inform them, unless you have paid them off. If you haven't paid them off and they still hold a second charge on the property, you must inform them before you sell the property, as against what it would have been if you bought the property on your own. Now, help to buy ISAs require application to the government for the bonus release. So if you use the help to buy ISA, or if you want to use the help to buy ISA to purchase a property, you need to apply to the government to release the bonus. Okay, so that application will be made by your solicitor when you're ready to buy, and then you will have to close the help to buy ISA account and get a certificate or documents proving that the account is closed from the ISA provider, present it to the government. It now proves that the ISA account has been closed, and then the bonus will be released, which you will now add to whatever funds, the consolidated funds you require, including your mortgage to buy the property. But if you want to buy property on your own, you do not need to apply to anybody to release any bonus. You just gather your deposits, get your mortgage, buy your property, and that's it. So it's different. Now, the help to buy ISAs can also be used towards the purchase of new and old properties. Yeah, the help to buy ISAs can be used to purchase, towards the purchase of new and old properties. But if you're buying, a property on your own, you can also buy a new and old property depending on what your income can carry and how much deposits you've got. Now, the help to buy equity loan scheme requires you to repay the government loan after 5 years of purchasing the property. You start paying interest. You're not like repaying the government. You start paying interest on the intervention, on the amount the government has loaned you when you wanted to buy that property. Remember, we said the government will put 20% down for you, and then you come up with 5% deposits. You do not pay any interest on that until after 5 years. That is the interest on the government part of the loan until after 5 years. But compared to the normal mortgage, if the government did not come in, from day one, you start making repayments on the full value of the mortgage, on the full loan amount from day one. You do not have to wait, from month one. You do not have to wait for 5 years. So that's also the difference between the help you get from the government. The government says, take this money, buy your property, put it towards buying your property. Don't pay us any interest on it until after 5 years. After 5 years, you start paying interest on that loan, and every year that interest increases by the equivalent of the increase in the retail price index plus 1%. So there's likely that every year that interest will be increasing, and the idea is to make you pay back that loan as quickly as possible. Yeah, and we have covered this in last week's episode on how the help to buy equity loan scheme works. Okay, so the repayments of interest and capital. When you buy your property through the normal mortgage route, yeah, you start repaying interest and capital. Assuming you bought that property or you took that mortgage out on repayments method of mortgage. If you took that mortgage out on interest only, you pay only the interest. But what I'm trying to point out in difference is that when you're paying the government's loan back after 5 years, you're paying interest only. You don't have option of making repayment and interest repayments to the government. You only have the option of paying the interest. When you want to pay back the capital, the government will now value your property, and based on the current value of your property, they'll ask you to pay the percentage of the value of that property back to them, irrespective of how much you have paid in interest already. That is interest only. But compare that to the conventional mortgage and method of buying property. When you buy the property, you pay interest and you pay part of the capital, mostly because these days a lot of lenders no longer do interest only on residential mortgages, unless in exceptional cases and circumstances. unless you can basically prove to them beyond every reasonable doubt that there is a vehicle, there's a mechanism put in place to be able to repay the capital as and when due. Apart from that, most of the residential mortgages arranged, in this present time are arranged on repayment basis, meaning that you're paying part of the capital back and part of the interest. And what it means that by the time the mortgage finishes, you would have paid off the mortgage, both capital and interest. There'll be nothing left to pay. Okay, so with a normal mortgage, you own 100% of your own home. But with the Help to Buy equity loan scheme, the government owns a proportion of your home. So those are the few differences that I want to point out between the Help to Buy equity loan scheme and the conventional mortgage and the normal way of purchasing properties. So I hope this has been helpful to you to understand the difference between the Help to Buy scheme and the normal mortgage and conventional way of buying properties. And it's up to you to assess your situation or your circumstance and see if the Help to Buy scheme will help you get to where you want to get to quicker, or if you need to wait a little bit more and see if if you can come up with more deposits. If you do not mind some of the inconveniences, you want to take advantage of that. Or if you haven't got enough time on your hands and you want to act quickly, you might want to take advantage of the Help to Buy scheme. But the scheme is there to help first-time buyers get on the property ladder. It's not suitable for everybody, I must say, and it's not suitable for every circumstance. So you need to assess your circumstance, and if you want to talk to us, please come and talk to us. Check us out on www.modestyfinancialconsultants.co.uk. Send us a message. You can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, or you can just drop me a message on YouTube, and get in touch with us and let us know if we can help you in any way, shape or form identify the opportunities or map out a strategy that you need to help you get on that property ladder based on your circumstance. Thank you very much, folks, and I thank you for being part of this, and I hope this content has been very, very useful to you. Please drop us a review, drop us your feedback, let us know whether this has been useful or not, and let us know what you think. We really, really appreciate that feedback, and we really, really appreciate you for taking time to listen and to watch and learn. And please do take care of yourself and get in touch if you need any help from us in any way, shape or form. We're here to help, and the idea here is to educate you on everything mortgage so that you approach your mortgage applications and your house purchase process from a standpoint of knowledge and a standpoint of experience and information that you have gained via this channel. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel, because every week we'll be bringing you different topics on mortgages. Thank you, God bless, and see you again next week. I am Ikenna Umezidike. Take care. Bye.